Hello my friends, welcome back to another tutorial. I hope you're all keeping very well out there today. In today's lesson I'm going to paint something that I think a lot of you might like. I think some of you may struggle with, but I'm going to show you something, how you can make something that looks very complicated. You can paint it quite easily if you're just careful not to overdo certain areas. Okay, I have a 16 by 20 canvas here. I have a palette for some colors. I'm going to paint an ocean, a seascape. So it's just basically a simple seascape, no land, nothing like that. It's just water and a sky. There's going to be waves on the ocean kind of lapping up and down, okay, and then there's going to be a lovely reflection of a sun just up in the sky, reflecting off the tops of the waves, the tips of the waves as they just come up and down. Okay, it's just going to be it's a very eye-catching type of a scene, very dark, rich colours. I think you'll have a bit of fun with this. I will simplify it for you. I think a lot of you will enjoy something like this because it's about, for me, a scene like this is all about just keeping your brush strokes nice and loose and not being too kind of restricted with your brush and too forced. It's about just letting the paint flow, basically. Just a handful of colours, primarily blues. Let's have a go. I'd like to see what you think about this, and I'd like to see you try it as well. Again, as I said, it looks very complicated. When you look at a picture like this, it looks so complicated. There's just a couple of aspects of this that I want to show you to be careful about, okay? Just at the very end. But I think you'll enjoy this. Let's just get the brush, let's get nice and loose and flowy with the brush and the paint, and let's just have a bit of fun with this one. And I think sometimes a simple picture like this can be very eye-catching, especially with a white frame. All right, so I'll show you when it's finished. I'll show you the painting framed. If I have a frame here, I might have one ready. Let's just go and have a bit of fun with this, okay? Any questions, please do just ask. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell notification as well for up-to-date tutorials. Again, thank you so much, my patrons. Thank you for your support. I have another nice one coming for Patreon very shortly, the next couple of days, okay? Watch out for that, my friends. Let's have a bit of fun. Come on, let's get cracking on with this lovely seascape, and let's just have a bit of fun, and let's have a nice easy enjoyment for this painting, okay? I'll be right back. All right, my friends, let's do this. There's a reference photograph. Now, it looks very complicated, doesn't it? Lots of different directions for brush strokes and all of that. It looks complicated, but I'm going to show you how to just simplify this, and you can take your time. There's no rush with doing this, all right? My colours are titanium white, phthalo blue, lamp black, cerulean blue, magenta, cadmium yellow, and cadmium red. That's all we need for now. I think this is going to be quite a nice, fun tutorial, and I think you'll learn a lot in this tutorial. Look, let's just try it and see how we go, all right? 20 by 16 canvas. I primed this once with just a water-based white undercoat. What I'm going to do next is just take some linseed oil. I'm going to just wet the sky. As you can see, I've masking tape across my horizon line, and I just want to give the sky a very quick coat of linseed oil. If you have liquid clear, that's absolutely fine, or you can just use your regular thinners, a little bit of turpentine or something like that as well. This really, the reason for this is just to take the dryness from the canvas, okay? Because sometimes a canvas can be quite dry when you're working on it, and I want the colours to blend in nicely on this and to just go nice and smoothly over the canvas, all right? That's the only reason I have this on. I'm going to take a large brush, dampen the brush. Let's take a look at the sky. Now, we have a nice rich blue up on top. Now, let me just go in for a second to my camera here, and I just need to keep the display on with my phone here, just so it doesn't keep going off for the reference photograph. Okay, that's good, all sorted. Nice blue for the top. I'm going to take Phaylo blue and plenty of white. It has a nice dark kind of a circle on top, doesn't it? This lovely arch. That's quite nice, I think. A little bit of magenta, some Phaylo blue. And let me just take a look at this now for a moment. Let me just start here in the middle. It may be a little bit, if it's a bit strong like that, okay, take a touch of black, tiny touch of black. That just takes the vibrancy out of the colour. You see that already, just by putting a tiny bit of black in there, it takes the richness away from the colour. So let's just go all the way along with this. I'm not going right to the bottom yet, okay? I'll leave those colours until the very end. More Phaylo blue, more black. I don't have much thinners, if any, on my brush now at the moment. It's just paint, okay? Because the oil that's on the canvas, that's going to naturally thin the colour for me anyway, as I'm putting it on, okay? Which is a nice thing about having a kind of a base layer of oil or something on your canvas. So it thins the paint for you as you're going along. It saves, you know, it does save a lot of hassle trying to mix up colours and get colours right before you put them on the canvas. And trying to thin colours to a certain way, you know what I mean? To a certain thinness. So you can allow for the canvas being wet to thin your colours slightly for you anyway. Let's just keep going with this. Soften that right across there now, get it nice and soft. Now, I will just dampen my brush quickly and dry it on some tissue, just to take the bulk of that colour off. Go back in, let's get some Phaylo blue, a little bit of white. We start lightening again. Now, as it comes down, you can see we have a very soft colour. I'm going to start introducing a lot of pink into this. So I just cleaned my brush very quickly. Some magenta, some white into that kind of a bluey shade. Let me just have a look, okay? That's a little bit too pink, isn't it? So let's take a tiny touch of cadmium yellow and cadmium red. I just want to get a nice, soft, peachy shade. Cadmium red, little cadmium yellow, and some white. Maybe a touch more magenta. That might be a bit better. I just want to get this soft, pinky shade. But not a rich pink, if you know what I mean. I hope that makes sense. It's not a kind of a rich pink at all. Now, my colours are getting muddy, so I'm going to start again. Let's take magenta. Actually, there's one colour I forgot to put on here. Let's get a bit of Naples yellow. I think Naples yellow is probably a very important colour for colours like this. Naples yellow and a bit of magenta. There we go. I think that's the colour I want. Plenty of white, plenty of Naples yellow. That's better. I'm going to go into the blue first with this, look. I'm going to just soften the blue. I want to get a nice transition from a blue down into the soft pinky shade. I'm going to go up now and just soften all of that across. I want it nice and soft. Okay? Clean the brush again. It's very important to clean your brushes when you're doing this, all right? Keep your brushes nice and clean. Let's go back into that white, magenta, and more Naples yellow. Let's get a bit more of the Naples in here, so we can start beginning to put in the sun colour down at the bottom. A bit more Naples yellow across here, soften it up, so we get this lovely kind of a soft pinky shade. Soften it right across where it meets the blue. I want a nice transition here. I don't want separate lines of colour, all right? You see now how that's starting to make a bit of sense. If in doubt, just grab Naples yellow, magenta, and lots of white, and start with that colour. That will make it much easier for you. Next, I'm going to go into some Naples yellow on its own. I'm going to just start putting some Naples yellow across the bottom. So I'm preparing for my sun, and it's very important where you have a blue and a yellow. always have a layer of pink in between, okay? Just a soft pink. It may not look exactly like the photograph, but you will get muddy colours if you put a blue right next to a yellow. You're going to get greeny colours, so be very careful with that. I'm going to go into some Naples, a bit of cadmium yellow, and a touch of cadmium red. I'm going to make a lovely rich kind of a, not a rich colour, but kind of an orangey, soft orangey sort of a shade. Just by adding little bits of cadmium red and little touches of cadmium yellow, you start getting this lovely soft orange. Let's just bring that across. We just keep adding more and more and more as we need it, okay? Bit more cadmium red, bit more cadmium yellow. Just little touches, you see what I mean? Tiny, tiny, tiny little touches of that colour. That's all you need. Now, again, we need to soften that slightly up around by the pink. But don't go too high. Just into the pink slightly. So now you can see we have a nice balance of colours coming down. No muddiness. And each colour is nice and sort of clean, if that makes sense. I'm cleaning my brush very, very well. Okay. What I'm going to do next is, I might start putting some, will I start putting some clouds in? No, I put the sun in first. Let's take another brush and start putting the sun in. It needs to be a nice soft brush. I'm going to make a nice rich orange. Okay, the very same, cadmium red, cadmium yellow. And I'm just going to start putting that rich orange along the bottom. So I'm getting ready now for my sun. I'm just preparing the area for the sun. A little bit of a warm orange first. All right, just like so. Now you can soften it away out as much as you want. Let's go up at a slight angle. That just brings the colour upwards into the pink. And then come across horizontal. All right. That's not bad, is it? Now let's start putting this halo of the sun in. I'm starting with a rich orange, okay? I'm going to go right in the middle. We need a bit more red, don't we? I start with a nice, I like to start with a nice rich orangey shade first. Then I just tend to kind of soften across that. Okay. And then I go with my yellow. Now, again, clean the brush. Make sure your brush is fairly clean for this. Not spotless, but fairly clean. Let's go right into cadmium yellow. Okay, loads of it on the brush, and let's just put in, come on, let's just dab in a little bit of a sun here. Doesn't have to be perfect, okay, doesn't have to be a perfect circle, because I will be softening this with my blender brush in a moment. Just whatever technique you feel helps, just use that technique, okay? That's all you have to do. Let's take a bit more. Maybe make it a bit bigger. Get that nice halo effect around it. Just soften it out. Then I take my soft blender brush and I simply go around and I just soften the edge of that around. Look. You can work this whatever way you like. I'm going to soften it out from the centre, very gently. I'm barely touching the canvas with this now, okay? That's the first stage. Then, let's get a clean brush. Let's get some pure cadmium yellow. Dab a little bit of that right in the middle and soften it outwards, look. Dab, 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 dab. Lastly, a little bit of white. Let's take a touch of white and just right in the middle, start with a little touch of white right in the middle and soften it away again. Dab, 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 dab with your brush. Now you can even go on with your soft blender brush if you like, and you can dab it with this as well. This will just make it a lot softer. Okay, there we go. Now you see these little lines we have coming out, these nice little bands of, these little rays of light we have coming out. We could also put a few of those in if we want. You just go like this, look. Just flick a little brush out. And again, with the soft blender brush, soften them out very gently. And that does give you a little impression of some nice little rays. A little dab of white just in the middle, and that little dab of white will just catch your eye. Okay? This is an important stage because you only get one chance really to make this look right. When the painting is finished, this will make everything stand out. We're done with the sky. Actually, we have a couple of clouds. Let's pop a few little clouds in, just here and there. Let's make a nice rich plum, okay? Bit of phthalo blue, magenta, tiny bit of white, maybe a touch of cadmium red. Get a nice warm plum. Just for that little corner over there. It's nice and it's a bit of on the red side, okay? It's like a deep red, purpley kind of a grape. Let's just scrape a bit of that across there. Bit more magenta again. You don't want too much blue in this. Just pop a little bit of that in, like so. Bit more magenta. Nice and pinky now. A little one up here. Just floating across towards the sun. And we have another little bit coming in here. You see how I'm just wiggling my brush very, very loosely. That's all you have to do. Okay? It's just a suggestion. Do we go one side or two sides? I don't know. It's a tricky one, isn't it? Bit more blue. Let's just deepen this one down here. Maybe take a bit of this dark bluey shade and pop a little bit of that cooler shade in there as well. I'll leave it at that. I'm just going to soften with my blender brush again, very gently. Soften those out. Now, we're almost done with the sky, my friends. We just need to put a little bit of light on one or two of those. Okay? Tiny bit of light. Bit of Naples yellow, a bit of white, a little bit of cadmium. Let's pop a little touch of highlight, just hitting some of those. Just a bit. Doesn't have to be lots. Just a tiny suggestion of a little bit of light. And that's fine. The sky is finished. Take off the masking tape, and it's time now to start doing this. What I'm going to do is, let me see. I'm going to just take a large brush. I want to start with a nice rich blue first for this, all right? Let's make sure there's no greens or yellows on this brush. I am going to wet the canvas again with some linseed oil. Now you can see how much of a difference that linseed oil made up here. Everything is nice and smooth. The brush goes nice and smoothly across the canvas. You know, you're not dragging the brush across as you normally would, trying to cover the canvas. Everything was nice and soft. So I'm just going to scrape a bit of this linseed oil just around the canvas, very roughly. Let's go into some phthalo blue and a little bit of white. I'm going to take a touch of cerulean this time, just to give it a slightly greeny hue, a touch of magenta. Now this may look a bit vibrant. I'm just going to try this first. What I'm doing now is I'm looking at the light colours on the photograph. All the light colours. Let me take a look. That's way too bright and vibrant, isn't it? Let's go with a little touch of black. And then a touch of magenta. Just to keep it warm. Now it's not the lightest shade on the photograph, I don't think. It's probably slightly towards the middle shade of what's on the photograph. I'm kind of looking for a soft medium blue. That's the kind of shade I'm looking for. So I'm thinking phthalo blue, magenta, a little bit of cerulean, just to give it a slightly greeny hue. Now let's cut up into that horizon line. This is what I will call the base colour, alright? And I'll always say it's the base colour. It's just a nice kind of undercoat. Now this is nice and dark over this side, so I'm going to make it nice and dark. And if this is not straight, we can fix it, look, okay? Don't worry about if it's not straight. We can fix it later with a nice sharp brush. So we have a nice dark up there on that side. I'm going to go with a bit of dark on this side. Bring that all down. Let's mix up a bit more of that shade. Bit of black, plenty of phthalo blue, bit of white, and a touch of magenta. Just remember, this is just the underpainting. You know, that's all it is. We'll be putting lots of colour on top of this. This is just to cover the white of the canvas, really. That's my goal with this stage. Get the white covered. And once we have a base colour on, it's easier then to figure out different shades. Okay, now we have a nice soft colour on there. The next thing we should do is start adding a bit of warmth just to the centre. So what I'm going to do is take a little magenta, a bit of white, and I'm thinking of maybe a touch of Naples yellow just to warm it slightly. I want us to start adding a little hint of pinks towards the centre where the sun is, okay? Just little bits of pink, just for now. Soften it away. That's just, again, I'm thinking ahead. I'm preparing for later. That's all it is. We have a lot of lights and darks, okay, going on in this. What I might do is I'm going to take another brush, okay? It's this medium brush. I'm going to just start putting in some light and creating the shapes. Let me show you what I mean. Let's dampen this brush now and just get it nice and clean. I'm going to take some phthalo blue, some cerulean, and some white. Plenty of white in this. And maybe a hint of magenta, again, just for that little bit of warmth. Let me take a look at this colour. Okay, that's not a bad colour. It's not bad. I'm going to just start creating the shapes. You see this dark wave we have? I'm going to just start creating the shape of that with this lighter colour. We have another one kind of down here. I'm just getting some of the lighter colours in and starting to create. You can see I'm just starting to create the shapes of these. I'll continue that up like so. Now all the way across the top half of this canvas, it's just lots of little lines. Look, let's just put lots of little lines in like this with this lighter colour. I will go to a palette knife as well very soon, but I'm just touching the edge of the brush, the back edge of the brush off of the canvas, okay? Just to let little bits of paint land on the canvas. That's all it is. Just allow little bits. Doesn't matter if they're big or small, just all we want to do is create some movement in this. That's all I'm focusing on right now, a little bit of movement. It's about building it up gradually, I think, for me. So we have a nice one coming. You see this lovely one here, look? Comes down and it just merges away. And I always tend to do the dark colours last, okay? What I mean by that is I'll kind of try and get my lights in as much as I can, but then I'll focus on my darks. Afterwards. It's much easier, I find. You can put your dark sides in first and then work on your highlights. But I think it's just easier to fix if you have your highlights in first. Now, there we go. It's time to start putting in slightly darker shades and creating all these waves, okay? I'm going to get, this is very important, this stage. You need a very fine pointy brush for this, all right? Has to be very fine. Let me just have a look. The yellow balance on this is not the best. I can fix that later. Look, a fine pointy brush. This is a new one, a simple cheap brush. Phaylo blue, magenta, a little bit of black. Maybe even some cerulean. Now we have a nice rich dark colour here, don't we? You see how pointy this is? Now you could use a palette knife for this as well if you like. I'm just going to flick this, go up here and just start flicking this in all different directions. You see the way I'm flicking it up and down, left and right, left and right. All right? That's just the technique you have to use, that's all. Now, already, you can see it's starting to make a little bit of sense, isn't it? You can start to see the roughness of the water, all these little shades and the shadows coming out. Let's go again, take a bit more black. You're never going to see that much detail with the waves being so far away, okay? You're never going to see that much. It's just going to be lights and darks, sort of little flicks and lights and darks. You see what I mean? Now we start getting more aggressive with our brush strokes as we come forward. A bit more magenta, a bit more black, a little bit more phthalo blue. This is a very deep dark colour now. I'm going to start picking out this wave. You see this wave up here? This kind of, this main one that kind of comes down, goes off like that, doesn't it? I'm just going to start getting the general shapes of that. You see, I'm just looking at the photograph and I'm just looking at which way they're going. That's all you have to do, okay? Don't try and complicate this too much. So it comes down like that and it flows away, doesn't it? We will be putting in our very dark darks or blacky darks later on. I'm just kind of starting to form the shape of all these little waves, okay? I'm just starting the beginning of shaping them. I just want to get my shape and get the direction. It's all about getting the direction of your wave. That's all. But look, you just have some fun with this. Don't take this too seriously. We have another nice little one over here. Just kind of comes down and falls out, doesn't it? Bit of cerulean blue perhaps in there. And when I'm doing this now, I'm using lots of nice thick paint on my brush, okay? That's very important as well. It's probably just paint. There's not much thinners on this. Then we just have one or two kind of bouncing up around here and there, don't we? Then we come to this very big one here. This is probably the eye-catching part of the painting for me. I'm just going to put a line across like that. Then it comes down. All of this is pretty much in darkness here, isn't it? Just remember, all you have to do is look at the photograph, look at the reference photograph, just try and copy what you see. That's what I would say to you, okay? Just try and copy what you see. Okay, nice flowy lines coming down like this, you see? Nice flowy lines. I grabbed some Phaylo blue. We are 30 minutes in. 30 minutes and we have all of this done already. I can stop if you like and take a break. I can always stop and take a break and get a coffee if you feel it's going too quickly. But you know, when you're in this stride, you know, I find with painting, when you get into this stride, it's very difficult to stop, isn't it? Because you're having so much fun with it. That's what I find with painting. Now, look, lovely darks coming all the way down here. But honestly, the best way to get this effect is with a nice new sharp pointy brush. That's what I would say. So, you know, just go pick up one for yourself. Just a cheap one. This is a very cheap, soft synthetic brush. It's a very, very cheap, even for kids, we'll say. But do you know what? It's the best brush I have. You don't have to go and buy expensive brushes. I think a lot of that is just an illusion. It plays on the way artists think, especially amateur and beginners. For some, you know, I was the very same. You think that by buying and purchasing a very expensive brush, you're going to be painting much better. That's not the case. It's about how you use the brush. That's all it is, okay, my friends? So don't feel like you have to go spending a fortune on expensive equipment and expensive brushes just to be able to paint better. It's all practice. That's all it is. Now I'm going to come over here, put a nice little piece like that. Again, a bit more paint. You see, I'm going to be hitting this then with lots of highlights later with the same brush, or nice bright blues. And then you'll really see it come to life. Just put a lot of these little curves. You see how I'm following the water, the direction of the water coming down. That's very important. You have a little bit here that catches the sun. Just block that in. But you can see how my brush strokes are following the direction. That's very important. Do you see that? Now, let's go up and just pop a few more of these. Maybe even a bit more blue. It looks like a black, but there's a fair bit of blue in this now as well, okay? I'm just wiggling my brush, kind of swishing the brush up and down, up and down. Just getting lots of different sort of directions. Then we come over here. As you go off into the distance, the brush strokes get thinner and thinner and thinner. That's all it is, okay? So I have now my basic kind of darker areas filled in, so to speak. So you can see now, I know where my big eye-catching waves are going to be. So it just helps me, it just helps you to know where you're going with your painting, I find. So it's nice and light in the centre. I won't go at that too much. We can come over here, we can put a few more in, just dancing around. All right. Now it's beginning to make a bit of sense, isn't it? I'm going to call this part 1 finished. I'm not going to keep going and going and going. I'll just call this part 1 finished, my friends. And I think then we can come back in part 2. Let me just fix this. This light, you see how that light just changed on the camera? Everything is bright and yellow. It's like an automatic exposure. It's just very, very frustrating. I need to figure out how to fix this. I'm going to be right back in part 2. All right? Don't go anywhere. I'll see you in just a moment.